Welcome to A to Z with B, an innovative talk show with Beatrice Tony Bailey. As your host, B will be discussing today's hottest topics and insights into different faiths, cultures, and religions. Now sit back, put your feet up, and let's see what's buzzing with B.
Hello and welcome, and I thank you for turning in to A to Z with B. Now, don't you feel like you were just sitting on a cloud somewhere in heaven listening to Elizabeth play the harp? What a beautiful, relaxing way to start the show. It's funny, when you will meet my three guests, all of them have these wonderful, soothing voices that must go with the harp. Maybe it's a requirement. I would not be a harpist. I'd probably play the drums or something like that. But they have wonderful personalities that really go with the harp. I want to let you know this particular episode is entitled Wellness Within. And it's a really unique organization that I became aware of. It's one of my divine appointments. As many of you know, I like to go out and about. And when I'm out and about, I like to meet different people. So a good girlfriend of mine invited me as her guest to an event called Crabby About Cancer. Well, I didn't know what it was about, but I knew there was crab involved, so I definitely was going to go. So at that particular event, as soon as I walked in, I met Eileen. And I'd met Eileen before at an event at Kaiser. I'm on their spiritual advisory committee. We haven't met in a while, but she was there talking about her music ministry. So that's one appointment already. And then I met Patty Brown, and she was running around like a chicken with her head cut off because she was organizing the event. And I always carry copies of my book, and so I gave her a copy of my book. She went, wow, I'm going to read this. And then when I attended the event, I really found out what they were about. So I thought this would be an excellent bit of information for you viewers to find out about. So I wanted to introduce my guests today. I have Patty Brown, who is Executive Director of Wellness Within. I have Elizabeth Went, who's a co-founder of Music Partners in Healthcare. And I have Eileen Kelly, and she's a lady that I met through Kaiser, who's also a co-founder of Music Partners in Healthcare. Now, first person, what we're going to do, we're going to interview these various ladies. They're going to tell us a little bit about their background. Then, of course, we'll have an open discussion. So my first guest, Miss Patty Brown. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and things that our viewers would find interesting.
Thank you for having me here. Wellness Within was started about 1.5 years ago. And I've been in private practice. I'm a psychotherapist in private practice for the last 20 years. And over those years, I've had people come in that are either in active cancer treatment or survivors. And I always thought in the back of my mind how much I was really pulled toward working with folks that are battling cancer. And it wasn't until I went to a training back in Washington, D.C. from the Center of Mind-Body Medicine that I realized that was my calling. Mm-hmm. And I think you spend a lot of time in your life thinking that you're doing what you love, and then you really find out that this is what I'm really passionate about. And it was then that I got the courage to decide that open up a nonprofit center and a wellness center, a mind-body wellness center, strictly to help people who are in active cancer treatment, survivors, and their family members who are trying to help them, and caregivers.
Now, you mentioned earlier that you're a psychotherapist. What's the difference between a psychiatrist, a psychologist, and a psychotherapist? I kind of know, but kind of maybe no, not.
Yeah, well, you know, I guess if you look at it on paper, well, a psychiatrist is an MD.
Right.
So a psychiatrist will administer medications. A psychologist oftentimes is a doctor. They have a PhD. And I guess if you read on paper the difference between a psychologist and a psychotherapist is the science part of behavior is more focused in psychology as a psychologist versus relational kinds of therapies is more for psychotherapy.
Okay, okay, great. Now, we had talked a little bit, wasn't this music therapy concept kind of considered like voodoo medicine? I mean, it's right up there with white sage.
Yeah,
which I do use, by the way.
I don't know. I don't know if music therapy, I mean, maybe Elizabeth and Eileen can speak more to that, but for me, I think it's more mind-body medicine that was looked at as kind of woo-woo science. Mm-hmm. And I think when I first started out, actually, I remember when I was interning, I got really involved and impressed. I started taking my CEU classes around it, and I realized...
CEU is what?
You get your certification. You have to get 40 units of classes that you need to take in order to keep your license current. Okay. So every 2 years you need to do that. And I would go, and I would always be drawn to mind-body medicine. Well, people, when they come into therapy, want very concrete, specific, clinical kinds of treatments. And mind-body medicine wasn't looked at as being very clinical back then, 20 years ago. So that was more voodoo, you know, woo-woo kind of science.
You know, and don't you find that, at least I find it interesting, I mean, when I was growing up a few years ago, anything other than standard medicine, you know, penicillin, aspirin, or whatever, if you talked about herbs, you talked about yoga, all that was just hippie stuff. All that was just that stuff them foreigners do. And now I find it really almost amusing how the medical community now has embraced all this voodoo, herbal, hippie stuff, because there is an awful lot of truth associated with these types of approaches to healing. I'm sure you can tell us that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The minute that neuroscientists got involved and started sending out data that said, hey, there's really something that happens to our brain chemistry when we do implement mind-body medicine, whether it be music or meditation, breathing techniques, those kinds of things has been shown over and over again to be profoundly influential in people's healing and calmness. And matter of fact, even Blue Cross Blue Shield, a few years ago, they started giving CDs out for people before they had surgical procedures because they saw that people were under anesthesia less time and they recovered faster, so they were out of the hospital faster.
Well, the mind is such a dominant thing. I know the times that I've had surgery, I've got a lady that's my mentor, and what she told me, she says, before you go under, I want you to visualize the happiest time in your life, or where you've gone on vacation, you know, and what the sand felt like, and the sound you heard with the, you know, with the water, who you were with. So take yourself to that happy place. And if you do that, when you come out of the anesthetic, you're already in the happy place. So if you go in tensed and, oh my God, maybe I'm gonna die, well, you're gonna be struggling, and you're not really, it's really counterproductive.
Very true.
Okay, great. Now, what are some of the components of wellness within? You mentioned breathing, and that's really, we don't breathe. I mean, we breathe, we do the little, everyone stop right now. And I want you to take 3 deep breaths. 1, 2, 3. We don't breathe. Now, doesn't that feel better? A lot better, huh? So let's tell us a little bit about the breathing.
That's great.
Did you breathe? Oh, good. I didn't.
And you know, and I think the breathing is crucial, because we know that what you have is a, you know, here I'll give you the clinical side. It'll sell it better. Is there's a parasympathetic nerve and a sympathetic nerve, which is attached to the bottom of your brainstem. And so your sympathetic nerve is what, when you're anxious, that lights up on an MRI, you can see it. So it has a huge effect. It you know, gets your endorphins going, it gets little peptides and enzymes going that get you almost out of your body. So you're just more now impulsively reacting. Whereas when you do deep breathing exercises, your parasympathetic nerve lights up, and all of your blood chemistry, your heart rate, and everything slows down, and you're able to concentrate much better and be more at peace. And what we know, especially people going through active cancer treatment, it's really frightening. It's very, very scary.
It is.
And when you employ breathing techniques and you try to teach people this, they feel like they're a little more in control, and they can ask questions. I mean, there's nothing more intimidating than going in to see your surgeon or your oncologist, and it's very frightening. And you forget your questions and you get intimidated by them. But if you employ your breathing techniques, and if you stop and you slow down, you're able to get the information that you're trying to communicate to physicians. MRI scans, anything that you're having, breathing is.
You know what's really important, and a good point that she made, whenever you're going through any kind of crisis, certainly a medical crisis, it's important for you to document. And you know, I talk about my book, and there's lots of documentation in my book, Farewell, My Friend, but it's important for you to take the time to write out a list of questions, for you to do some research on the internet, talk to other people, and I've yet to encounter a doctor, either my doctor or in a meeting, that did not appreciate a patient coming in already armed with information. That also will help your nerves. You go in, the doctor can be throwing around 50-cent words. You already know what those words are. And at least you'll be in a better position to ask second-level questions. So you go armed with information, with your list of questions, breathing properly, you will really definitely lower your overall stress level. Okay? Now, yoga. Do you guys do the hot box sweaty yoga? We did one of those. 105 degrees, you die in the room?
No.
Oh. Good, I might do it.
No, we don't. Susan Whitaker actually is our yoga coordinator, and what she does is she teaches restorative yoga. And so what's nice about it is right now, because we're in our early growth stages, the classes are very small. So she's able to do individualized. She knows what people's treatments are, whether they have breast cancer or uterine cancer, whatever it is that they've come in, what their limitations are in their body. So she knows the very gentle moves to do with them, and using restorative yoga techniques.
Now, and restorative yoga means literally to try to get the body back at some kind of equilibrium?
Yeah, I'm a little out of my league on that one, but I think what my understanding is that it's very gentle moves that help your body sort of stretch a little bit. And one of the things that we know from people who report to us, that when you're going through cancer treatments and all that, you sort of don't trust your body anymore.
Well, your body's let you down.
Yes,
Yes,
right. Betrayal. A lot of
Right.
people talk about their bodies betrayed them. So it's another way in order to sort of get reintroduced to your body and say it's okay, and know that you're more than your cancer.
Now, physically, what does your organization look like? Are you in a house, an industrial building, you know, a Safeway grocery store? Where are you? I mean,
Well, we're sort of fragmented a little bit. We're in little satellite locations because I have a private practice in Roseville, and I have I'm limited with my space. So I do my mind body wellness 6-week groups that I do them there. Diane, who is our nutritional coach, does her workshops that she offers there. But Susan Whitaker does hers at her yoga studio up in Auburn.
Okay.
And we have other programs that are chomping at the bit to offer their services, but we don't have the space. We have constraints right now.
Well, now your Wellness Within is zeroing in on cancer. Are there other diseases in that you have on the drawing board, or just cancer happens to be your passion? And I mean, who doesn't know someone that has cancer or has had cancer? Both my parents died of cancer. My late husband died of cancer. So I mean, it's everywhere, and it's kind of scary.
Yeah, it is really scary. No, right now we're just focused on cancer survivors, and family members. And the reason for that, I mean, even if you look at statistics, last year in 2010, I think it was around 8,000 to 10,000 people in Sacramento, El Dorado, and Placer counties alone were diagnosed with cancer, and that's in 1 year. And so we know there's a lot of programs in hospitals that offer various different kinds of programs that are similar to what we're offering, but pretty much 99% of the people that come in will say, there's no way that I am walking into a hospital to go get yoga or meditation, because driving into the parking lot,
Right.
all they think about is, I'm going to get poked, prodded, I'm going to get x-rayed, I'm going to have to talk to a doctor, I'm going to feel all that anxiety. It's not soothing. It's not
Well, it's
peaceful.
also, there's a concept called white coat hypertension, and I found out about that through a woman that I used to work with. She was on all kinds of high blood pressure medicine for years and years and years and years. Come to find out, she has something called white coat hypertension, which means going into a medical office amps you up. So her blood pressure would always be elevated because she's going to go see the doctor about possible high blood pressure. And then when she started taking her readings at home, she didn't really have high blood pressure. It was borderline, but they had her on heavy doses of high blood pressure medicine, thinking that was the problem. Yeah, she had a little bit, tinges of it, but it was a white coat hypertension. I'm that way. I have high blood pressure, and when I go to the doctor, they usually wait, I don't know, about 10, 15 minutes into the appointment before they actually take the reading, because I used to be like off the chart. It had nothing to do with my high blood pressure. It was just like, is my blood pressure going to be high? Well, yeah, acting like that, yeah, it's probably going to be that way. And you also have a health coach. Now, who is that? What do they do?
Diane Giuliani, she is our health coach. She got her training from the Institute of Integrative Nutrition in New York, and she basically right now it's almost like she's teaching people about foods that will nurture them while they're in treatment and also thereafter. She's also a cancer survivor, a breast cancer survivor herself, so she's very familiar on both sides of it. And
like what, a Big Mac wouldn't help me?
No. She makes kale look more palatable, you know, and she'll talk about foods that are nutritious but make them yummy. And so she's offering classes. She does it on Saturdays. She's going to in January start twice a month, and that she'll be offering class. Right now it's once a month.
So I remember when I was going through, I had a surgery. It was minor surgery, but it was surgery. And of course, I go on the internet and I did some research. What foods really assist you in healing? And I found out strawberries, blueberries, mangoes, pineapple. So I made sure I had plenty of that in the house as well. But it's like anything else. Study to show yourself approved. Arm yourself with information. Find out. You'd be surprised what you're going to find out. Now, also one of the things when I was reading on your website, the health coach also talks about horticulture. Now, what is that?
Okay, so we have another person, Margie McCavitt, and she I call her my horticultural therapist, but she will call herself more a wellness garden coach, I guess. And basically what she's going to be doing is she's our go-to person, connection with Placer Sustainable Organic Produce, to give the produce what's in season and give it to Diane, who's going to be doing cooking demonstrations, so that we're cooking what's in season, we're cooking what's organic. And she also, down the road when we get more funding, is going to be able to go to people's homes and help them with their own gardens, because a lot of people find gardening very healing.
Oh, I do. I mean, I don't have the time. I don't like yard work, but I like gardening, the pots and digging and whatever. And I have herbs that I do, legal herbs, thank you very much, that I do grow and use when I cook. Yeah, it's easy.
Well, we hope that when we get a larger facility, where we'll all be under one roof, that we're also going to have a garden in the back of the center. People can go out and they can work in the garden there, and we can get some of our produce back there. So that's longer term that we're.
You know, I did when I also write for Senior Magazine, and I did an article on Carlton Place, and it's a really upscale senior citizen complex. And for their gardens, the garden's raised. The gardens are waist high. So if anyone has any kind of physical limitations, they don't have to be bending and stooping. Everything is waist high. So that might be something you might want to take into consideration.
Absolutely,
Okay.
I'll definitely talk to her.
Now, how does your organization differ from other organizations, or is there anything even slightly comparable to your organization?
Well, I don't know that I can fairly answer that. I mean, from what I know, in order to file for a nonprofit, we had to do a lot of that research. And, you know, why do you want to do it? And why nonprofit? Why do these services have to be for free? And so we did an awful lot of research to find out that no one has a nonprofit that's going to offer the amount of services that we are going forward to offer. Again, like I said earlier, hospitals offer some of these services, but people really don't want to necessarily go to the hospital for these kinds of services. And I think what's going to make ours even that much more unique, and I don't know any out there in this area, is that it's going to be, we're going to supply a menu of services for people so they can come. And it's like a healing oasis, so they can come and they can look on a calendar and say, oh, yoga's today. Oh, there's a healing is writing workshop, or there's an art therapy workshop, and then there's something for grief counseling, because sometimes people don't make it. And we want to offer the whole menu of different options that people can use during their treatment and after. And a lot of people, what we notice, matter of fact, we just had a group last night where Elizabeth came in and played for the harp for us, and we have only one more group that's going to meet. Next Monday's the last one for this particular group. And what happens is, when people realize that we're nearing the end, it gets really emotional for them, because they really have bonded, and it's been a really safe place and a very healing place.
I think that's a key word. It's been a safe place.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you would go there, you would feel comfortable enough to really open your kimono, expose yourself, and basically talk about the fears, the real fears that maybe you don't want to share with your family because you don't want to scare them or alarm them. I think it's phenomenal. Now, what we're going to do, we're going to break for a little commercial. You're going to find out a little bit more about RCC TV, and we'll resume our interview with these wonderful, lovely, harp-filled ladies. Beyond Bereavement, my television show, came about as a result of Alan Fisher, who's with Eastlawn, having read my book, Farewell, My Friend. Based upon the book, which dealt with how to address end-of-life issues, Alan thought it might really be an excellent platform for a television show. I was fortunate enough to meet with RCC TV, and they agreed with Alan, and off we went with our television show, Beyond Bereavement. Now, is this, what? Straight?
A little crooked there.
Oh, well, it's not drugs, I guarantee you. How about that?
A little more.
Is my hair all right? I don't want to look like Bob's big boy. Is it down? I lost 8 inches out of the top of my hair. You've heard this story before. And I lost 18 pounds. I don't have 18 pounds to lose. I know it's called sweaty yoga, hot box yoga. You're going to actually see me in a little bit on some footage where I'm in the studio sweating like a pig. It's 105, I think it's 300 degrees in the room. Maybe not that hot. 300 degrees?
Not quite.
Okay.
105.
Those are some of the connections I personally found with this particular Buddha.
Reverend Brian, this is a really interesting photograph that we have right here. This is the Dalai Lama. There's got to be a story behind this. Tell us a little bit about the Pet Education and Training Center.
Well, the Pet Education and Training Center helps people with disabilities by helping them train their own dog.
And as you can tell by now, our show has gone way beyond bereavement. We're so far beyond bereavement, we're now talking about raw foods. I mean, these are really genuinely good.
So mushrooms can be your meat.
There's the ham hock you have, and it has a texture of kind of a meat.
This would be so good with a ribeye. No, just kidding. Another great advantage of being a part of the RCC TV family is that your show is not just limited to the greater Sacramento area. My show is simulcast across the nation. I have people who are looking at the show in New York. The other advantage is that you can also have the different episodes uploaded on your website. I even have a couple of episodes on YouTube, so people are able to look at that, particularly for marketing opportunities for me as an author and a lecturer, and certainly for RCC TV. And we certainly hope that anyone that's interested, hey, go after your dream, follow your dream, and become a member of RCC TV's family. Welcome back. We're now going to resume our episode by talking to Miss Elizabeth Wint. Elizabeth, tell us a little bit about your background. I mean, you woke up one day and said, you know what, I think I'll play the harp.
That's almost the way it happened,
Really?
actually.
I was trying to be cute, really.
I grew up in a musical family. My dad was a musician, and I always wanted to play the harp.
Really?
Always. So my parents tell me. And they kept me in piano lessons, and I just kept asking to play the harp, piano lessons. I want to play the harp.
Stringed instrument, they were close.
Yeah. And finally, after 10 years of piano lessons, my parents rented a harp and found a teacher and said, all right, already, try it. And I was right. It was the harp, was my instrument.
And I've always wanted to play the harp. I mean, not enough to take the lessons, but I just want the stringing, it just looks so ethereal, you know, when you play it.
One of the wonderful things about the harp, which I've really found through the healing music part of it, is you can play the simplest things, and it's beautiful.
Oh yeah, like Twinkle Twinkle Little Star.
Or even just a couple of little notes, and there's something about the reverberance and the vibrational qualities of the harp.
You know what? And I like to listen to instrumental music. I don't have any harp music, but I think I'd really like to get some from one of you, and that because it is really, I can't when I'm creating, I can't listen to music that have words. I use words. So words trigger thoughts, and then thoughts trigger actions, and then before you know it, I'm making a list or running around the house. But with the harp, even before we start the episode, they were playing, tuning up in the other room. It was just had such a lovely, I don't know, just lovely vibes going through the studio. It was just really wonderful. Now, how did you create your organization, Music Partners in Healthcare?
Right.
Okay.
Right. So there's a group of us in the Sacramento area who have gone through the training and certification to become certified music practitioners. And
now, what is that?
well, we go through, it's about a 1.5 year training to learn to use the elements of music as healing tools. So we learn to use specific elements to meet someone's needs who is ill, who may be ill. You know, if they're having trouble breathing, then we know, well, we can use melodic patterns and spaces and phrasing to help them take deeper breaths. If they have an irregular heartbeat, well, we can use the music with a steady rhythm.
Does that really work?
It really does, right. It's through a process called entrainment, where everything in nature, everything wants to be synchronized, and everything has a vibration, from our tiniest cells, you know, to the universe. There's a certain vibration, and just what happens in nature is things want to be synchronized. They try to be synchronized, and they become synchronized. And so we actually use music then, our tempo and rhythms in music, to try to help synchronize with the patient that we're playing for, and it really does work.
Well, now, how do you come on the scene? I mean, do the patient request you, or is it you have a relationship with the hospital and someone? I mean, how do you? There's a lot of people you could be playing for. They're all all in the hospital. how do you determine who you're going to play for?
That's, that's part of the difficulty of the job. I would love to play for every single patient in the hospital. But when I go, I play at Kaiser in Sacramento and also at Sutter in Auburn, as well as with Patty at Wellness Within. When I go on the floors in the hospitals, generally the nurses have a list, and we've already kind of educated them on, this is not just pretty music. Don't just send us to patients who might enjoy it, because that really isn't our job. We're not entertainers. We are there to help people.
You're a therapist.
heal.
I think it's
We
a
are.
good.
Yeah.
That's a good differentiation. You're not entertainers, even though you entertain.
Sometimes,
that is not.
yeah.
That is not your purpose.
Right. So they pretty well know to send us to patients who are really having a hard time with breathing or with anxiety, or who can't get to sleep, or who are actively dying, or who just aren't thriving for some reason. And we can enter a room and we play one-on-one. So it's me and the patient, and I watch that patient, and I watch their breath, and I watch their face, and I change and adjust my music to adjust to that particular person in that particular moment. And that's one of the things that's so wonderful about live music, is a recording can't do that. And so as their breath may slow, then I can slow the music. As their heart rate becomes, usually I'm asked to go in because a heart rate is very fast, and if I can do something to slow it, and as I see that, then I can adjust my music.
Are all these terminal patients, or just, they don't have to be? I can remember when I was at Kaiser at the meeting, and Eileen was there, and that's what really struck in my mind, because I'd never heard of the music therapy. It's out of sequence, but tell me a little bit about, there was a woman from Romania or whatever, and was very, very frustrated because she couldn't communicate with anyone.
Right.
And you came in.
Right, and the nurse hadn't given me much information about that situation, just said that this lady was very unhappy, very sad, and would I go play for her? And I realized right away when I went into the room she did not speak English. And so I kind of made a guess that she was from Eastern European country, and started playing in some of the scales and modes of that region. And she just closed her eyes, and I could see her breath deepen and steady, and I thought she fell asleep. But as I finished, she opened her eyes, and she had someone translate. The doctors come in and they try to talk to me, but I don't understand. The nurses try to talk to me, but I don't understand. But this I understand.
Okay. Okay, yeah, that's beautiful. I mean, you mentioned that story, and I went, wow, and that's the power that music has. I mean, you're able to. It's literally a universal language. That's really wonderful. Now, I really briefly want you all to look at a video. It's an earlier interview about Eileen. I'll tell you a little bit about her history. So let's take a look at that video.
In tonight's Good People, the story of a woman who's using her talent to help premature babies at Mercy San Juan Hospital. She has the hands of a skilled surgeon, the compassion of a dedicated nurse, and a wonderful way of healing through music. When Eileen Kelly plucks the strings of a harp, she makes some of the most soothing music you will ever hear.
It's a wonderful instrument because you tip it back, you lean it on your shoulder, the vibrations go right through you, you hug it. You're just so connected to the instrument.
The calming effect her music has on babies who shouldn't even be born yet is well known to doctors and nurses who care for preemies at Mercy San Juan Medical Center.
If you're the one holding the baby, you can feel it through the baby's body. So they could start out being very tense, and then you just feel their whole body relax. Usually they go into a deep sleep.
To see on their monitors that wonderful things are happening for them, that their heart rates are regulating and their status is improving, it's just a wonderful gift to offer.
I think so. He's very calm when he listens to the music.
There will be babies whose monitors look like a 2-year-old scribbled on them. Everything's out of whack. And as I start to play, everything just settles down and they fall into steady, simple rhythms.
She was fussy right before she started, and then as soon as she started playing, she was just incredibly peaceful.
Eileen's own granddaughter was born premature. And that's when she first noticed the physical response that preemies have to the sounds of a harp.
As she responded, I started to realize that I was having this tremendous impact on her respiration, her oxygenation, her blood pressure. And at that point, I realized I needed to go get training.
Eileen certified through a music and healing program. The few hours that she plays every week to preemies is more important to her than any performance in a concert hall.
And sometimes I get up on Friday mornings and I think, I don't have time for this. And then I realize I don't have time not to do it. I need to go there because when I come here and I sit and I play for these babies, my whole life comes into perspective again.
Eileen is a volunteer who gives her time and talent each week playing for preemies. Because when they're crying, they're burning energy that they need to grow. And they're not crying when Eileen is playing.
Oh,
it's quite a gift,
so beautiful
isn't it?
to watch those faces relax and
Yes.
as she plays.
Yeah, it's amazing talent.
We want to thank Channel 10 for allowing us to show that particular video. Now that you know a little bit more about Eileen, we're going to talk to Miss Eileen. Tell us a little bit about your background. Were you like Elizabeth, you woke up wanting to play the harp?
Yeah, I woke
Really?
up at birth. It's a very
Really?
common scenario with
With
harp.
other harpists?
Yeah.
Wow.
The family story is that I started playing the piano by ear when I was a year and a half old. And
Hello.
I started playing simple little tunes and picking them out on the piano. But long before I think I even knew what a harp was, I wanted to play the harp. And I got the opportunity in high school to be able to play a small harp, similar to the ones we have here today. And I took some lessons, and then when I got to college, I was able to really absorb it. I majored in music, and I have a master's degree in music history and literature. But the harp gradually kind of took over my life. And
No, there's
instead of
different
playing
sizes.
piano-
I've seen the little bitty harps, the little tiny harps that you see the Cupids played. You know, I mean, I've seen those. I don't know if that's really considered a harp.
It
that,
is,
all
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then you've got like a, I don't know, a junior harp, and then you've got those big whacking harps that you see at a concert.
Right.
I mean, do you have all sizes?
I do, yeah.
You have a big whack. How do you get the whacking one? Is it on like rollers or?
We have carts. We have covers that protect them. We put them on a cart and we can wheel them. And I'm fortunate. I'm married to an engineer, and so he's designed a little system for me to lay my harp down, slide it into the car, and yeah. So they're very portable, actually.
Oh, interesting. Very, very, very interesting. Now, tell us a little bit also about how you started using your music when you were in college. You had a roommate, a special little roommate?
Yeah. Well, I have always just been drawn to music therapy. And so I used to go down into the basement of the college library and read the music therapy journals. And then, unbeknownst to my roommates, I would go and try things out on them.
They weren't your roommates, they were your guinea pigs.
I seriously hope none of them are watching. But I had one roommate who was a ballerina, and she was very artistic, very in tune with music, and very moody. And I read in the basement of the library how music could alter moods. And so I would take the records in those days, we'd stack the records up on the record player, and I'd find something that would kind of match her down, depressed mood. And then I'd just kind of bring it up through the stack. And by the time that stack of records was finished, she was dancing around the apartment and happy. And it witnessed to me, it witnessed to me that these things that I was reading were really true.
You have a personal experience in your family, which is very, very moving. Hopefully we'll get through this without tears. I mean, I've become a crier. I don't know what that's all about, but I have been. About your little granddaughter. Tell us about that situation. It's very, very touching.
Well, little Myra, my first granddaughter, was kind of a turning point in my life. She was born at 24 weeks, and she's what we would consider a micropreemie. She weighed just over 1 pound, My husband is fond of saying she was $1.50 because she was just a little larger than a dollar bill.
Wow.
And when we got the news that she was born, I packed up a few changes of clothes and a harp, and I drove from here to the hospital she was in Utah. And I took the harp with me on kind of a whim. I thought, if I can use this at the hospital, I will.
Had you already been using music therapy before then?
Yeah, I had been playing for patients, but I was untrained. I didn't really know what I was doing. But I had played for a lot of patients and friends, and so I took it, thought, if they'll let me play, that's great. If not, I'll have it in the hotel for myself. So when I got there, well, you have to understand these little micropreemies, they're so underdeveloped neurologically that bringing in additional stimulus, sensory stimulus, can be literally life-threatening to them.
In a hospital, anyone's ever been in the hospital, you ever tried to sleep in a hospital? How do you sleep? It's noisy, it's clanging. If you almost go to sleep, they're going to wake you up to see if you're awake, wake you up till you go back to bed, they're going to give you blood, wake up and go. It's just a very noisy. Do they have extra insulation in those areas because of that? Well,
They have a lot of noise monitors, and so they have monitors that will let them know if the decibel level gets too high. But it's a very random environment for those little infants. And so the doctors were really cautious about letting me bring the harp in, but they did agree, and I knew enough from all of those journals that I'd read, I knew to keep it simple and slow and very steady. And so I played for these little infants, and much to everyone's amazement, it didn't overstimulate them. In fact, it organized their environment, and they all did better. The nurses and doctors, everyone did better. They cleared a spot in the ICU, and this is just almost unheard of, but they cleared a spot in the neonatal ICU where I could keep my harp because they wanted me to come in and play every day. One day when I was in there playing for Myra, I was watching the monitors and saw that she was literally playing the same beat I was, her heart rate and her breath. And I thought, well, this is way cool. But then I realized as I slowed down, so did she. And as I sped up, so did she. And there were other things happening as I played that I went, oh my
That's a lot of responsibility. I mean, I don't know what I'd do. You'd almost be afraid to stop playing.
Yeah, yeah. It was really sobering for me. And I went home and I told my husband, this is serious stuff. Music is so powerful. I need to learn what I'm doing. And that was the trigger that sent me looking really seriously for education.
And where did you go for the education?
I went through a Music for Healing and Transition program. It's a national certification program. And it trains you not to be a music therapist, but to be a music practitioner.
What's the difference? Tell us the difference.
So the difference is a music therapist goes in with an agenda, with goals and a treatment plan. And they use recorded music, live music. A music practitioner goes in and is with the patient in the moment, whatever their physical condition is right now. You're there to facilitate a change for the better. We only use live music, and nothing is required of the patient. They need not interact with us. They can even be in a coma. They can be actively dying, and we are there to create a musical environment for them.
What's interesting, even if they're in a coma, the hearing is the last sensation to go.
That's
I
right.
can remember when my late husband was dying of lung cancer, our chaplain played the Native American flute, and my husband was half Native American, so she would come in and compose different melodies for him, which he just absolutely loved. He'd be non-responsive, but when she would finish, he would raise his little bony arm and say, thank you, because he heard her. And even towards the end, where he didn't want any kind of light in the room, she would come in, sit in the dark, and play for him, and he would respond to it. So when he went into a coma, I happened to have my girlfriend gave me a CD by Carlos Anaji, I think his name is, and it is a Native American flute. So I put it on the little boom box, but I'm not the world's most technologically astute. You push a button if it works fine. I did something that made it go into a loop. and it wouldn't stop playing until he actually died. He died listening to the Native American flute.
What wonderful piece that must have brought to him.
It must have been. I can't listen to the tape today. I gave it away. I just can't listen to that CD. But yeah, it was a tremendous positive impact on all of us. You go into the room, you heard just the flute playing just so quietly as he was doing his transition.
Well,
now,
I was say, one of the things we also can't discount with this service is just the beauty that we can bring in. I've had on more than one occasion someone from the hospital come up to me and say, "You saved my life." I'm like, what? He said, I had given up. I was so sick. I had given up. And I heard your music. And it was so beautiful. It gave me hope. It gave me a reason to live. And that's why I'm alive today.
Wow. So you just never know. I mean, you just never know. Because music is so much a part of our lives. I don't care what your ethnic extraction is, what your culture, all of it is determined by the music. I mean, it just is. So it is just an amazing thing. Now, you gave a presentation to the American Association of University Women, and there were 5 points that you mentioned I thought were really great. If not, I have them here.
On the spot.
I will, and I have them here.
No, when I went through this training with Music for Healing and Transition, the education was so. It just opened my eyes to so many things, and some of the things that I've learned even since by doing the internship and by working in the field. One of the most powerful uses of music is with memory, and music is stored in the primitive parts of the brain, so it's in the emotional centers, and even after other memories start to fall away, music is retained. And so for people with cognitive problems, whether it's dementia or delays, they are living in an unfamiliar world, and you bring the music in and it creates a familiar, safe place. And it's a wonderful therapy. Also, we've talked today, several of us, about the fact that the bodies are rhythmic, and they want to synchronize with external rhythms. And so just like little Myra, our adult bodies will grab onto the musical rhythms and use them as a crutch when the body is unstable. And the music provides that rhythmic crutch that the body can grab onto and assimilate. So rhythm is really powerful. Elizabeth just mentioned beauty. And I have learned that beauty transcends anger, despair, frustration. It can totally transform an emotionally charged situation. So just bringing beauty to the bedside is so powerful.
You know what, and music is so important. I don't particularly care for rap music because it's angry music. I don't like music I don't care who it is. If it could be James Brown, don't be hitting me with Papa's Got a Brand New Bag. I like for my music, just personally, for it to come up, sit next to me, put its arm around me, and quietly talk to me and to minister to me. So music is extremely powerful, and what you choose to fill your mind with. If you're going to listen to a lot of angry music, that's going to impact you as well.
Yeah.
As well. Now, did we hit all 5 points? Probably not.
I think the 4th one was that death is a sacred passage. And that has been, I really had not had familiarity with situations with death prior to this. I'd always been remote from it. And to learn that it's a sacred passage and to be able to be there with music that facilitates the ease of passage, as you mentioned with your husband, and also to comfort and lift the family that is grieving. Music is a powerful tool there.
And I think it's indicative of our culture, not that I'm an anthropologist, but particularly in the United States, we don't want to talk about death or dying, because if we talk about death or dying, someone might die. Let me give you a news flash. Talk about it, don't talk about it, it's going to happen. So, but if you go to other cultures, you go to India, you go to China, first of all, they embrace the elderly.
Yes.
They worship their ancestors, so they're not afraid of moving towards the light. I mean, I'm not afraid. I'm not in any hurry to move towards the light, but I'm not afraid of moving towards the light because you do embrace death. I mean, not that you want to wrap your arms around it, but it's something that we need to deal with. And I think this is a wonderful opportunity for our viewers to know that there are other options other than screaming and running around the house when you face a tragedy. Plug into some harp music. Plug into something that's going to minister to your soul. Now, let's talk briefly about funding. How do you do your funding? I mean, you're nonprofit. Darling, I'm nonprofit, so I know it's kind of tough sledding. So I know you had your one Crabby About Cancer, which was a wonderful event out at this house, kind of a nondescript house out in Fair Oaks. Nice house, or was it Roseville? Where was it? Granite Bay? Yeah, nice looking house, the outside, but good grief. Go in the inside. The backyard was like a park, and so they had different vendors from really top-notch organizations all around the area. If you were a drinker, they had different wines that you could sample. They had ribs, they had Chinese food, they had whatever, and of course they did have crab. Chocolate dipped strawberries. It was a wonderful, wonderful event. Was that your first fundraiser?
Yes, it was.
Well, please have another one because I'd like to come.
We definitely will.
Okay.
We're probably planning in the spring to do some kind of either relay or fun run. We know that funding is, as you know, very, very difficult. And I remember when I was going to open the nonprofit, people said, this is the worst time that you can think about opening a nonprofit. Either, it's drying up, people aren't giving anymore.
Right.
And then the reality is, well, cancer doesn't really care that the economy is in trouble.
Right.
It still comes. And so I think that was more the impetus too, to say it doesn't matter and people need help. So we are hoping on grants and doing fundraisers, and somebody out there who was touched, hopefully there's a lot of people that are coming through our services now. We have a waiting list to come in for my mind-body medicine program, and hopefully someone will be deeply touched and want to help us grow this facility so we can touch many, many more people who
So you're a 501(c)(3).
We have a fiscal sponsor right now because the government, being what it is taking a very long time to process our paperwork since last March.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we still have a fiscal sponsor we use their number until ours actually comes in, but apparently we're close.
Well, good, very, very good. Now, is there any particular patient that you've worked with that has really stood out? We've already talked about the lady from Middle Eastern European or wherever the person was. Is there someone else whose story you'd like to share?
I would, because of how much Elizabeth has worked with Wellness Within. There's a couple of different things. I'll try to be really quick. One that comes to mind when you talk about death is there was a woman, when we do these exercises for breathing and we do different meditations, what have you, it really slows everything down and people become more open. And one of the things that did come up was this whole notion of dying. Now, even though when you have a life-threatening illness, you think, I could die, it's very difficult to talk about that with family and friends because everybody wants you to be positive and you're going to fight and you're going to win. So you try to create this safe environment for people to be able to talk about the white elephant, or the elephant, so to speak, in the middle of the room. And in this particular case, there was a woman who had hospice care, and she didn't make it to the last session, and that's when the second to last session, and Elizabeth was going to come play the harp. I went down to visit her, because we also go into people's home if it gets to that point. Went down there and asked Elizabeth, she was on her way back from Bodega Bay, if she would stop over and play the harp, because Dawn really wanted her to play, and so she did, met me at the house, and we played. And she passed away that evening.
Wow.
And it was a beautiful gift that she gave to the family.
Right, it would be a gift. That's phenomenal. Someone pops to mind?
Well, there's that story. There's a million stories,
I'm sure.
actually. Just a couple of weeks ago, the nurses asked if I would please go into a room. There was someone very, very agitated. She was angry. She was swearing at everyone. She was, just irate. And I started playing and just kind of didn't. Then, of course, her abuse started at me, and I just kept playing. I kept playing, and after about 6 or 7 minutes, she pulled her covers up, lied down, went to sleep.
It's wonderful.
And yeah, so I was like, okay, this was a little gift for the nurses.
That is good. Well, now, I want to thank all three of you wonderful ladies for coming in. Hopefully, you viewers understand more about the Wellness Within organization and music partnerships in healthcare. And I'd like to close. We're going to hear Eileen play the harp, but I want to leave you with one particular quote. I do like my quotes. Martin Luther said, next to the Word of God, The noble art of music is the greatest treasure in the world. Thanks for watching. Be blessed.